your week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
It's a question of taste with you, well, if you've gone sour, you want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are kept creeping, and you go and buy her flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy, I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out, let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out, so shut your mouth.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the professionals, 45 minutes professionals this morning. We've all got somewhere to be, and I'm sure you have as well. And it's a big welcome to Mitch and Stu, as you can see, who are together. And they've got a special guest, stage right.
Our Jägermeister is better than your Jägermeister.
1.75 litres.
With a pump.
Fantastic, great stuff. You will have seen in the chat. I have, because we haven't had time to do an auction this week, because obviously the shows are all over the place. We're going to try and get 50 quid for the dementia charity. So if you want to leave a super chat, we've set the target of 10 for this morning. If you can do that, I'll be able to donate some more money to Age UK this week. I'd like to keep it going each week for them. Every little counts. So make a donation. The limit is a £5. That's the least you can donate, unfortunately, with super chats. Do that, and we'll donate that to the cause. But anyway, let's get cracking and talk about the badge to Stu, because Stu, the crest, the badge was a big topic of conversation, which we didn't manage to cover on the show with the amigos because we pre-recorded it on Monday. So just coming to you, what was your overall thoughts on the announcement? Of course, we've been through this before, 1988, last time that it was changed. So what's your feelings on the crest being changed?
I think it was inevitable. It was going to happen. I think it's curious the timing of it, rather than just before a big game. It's something they could have announced maybe at the end of the season. But for me, I think the club decided that's what they're going to do. So there hasn't been really any fan participation at all. What they want to do, and at the end of the day, it's a badge. As long as they're playing in black and white stripes and they've got good players inside them, then it's sometimes people just want to get offended for the sake of being offended, don't they? I'm surprised there's not a campaign started already to save our badge or something like that. For me, I'm a bit nonplussed by it all, to be honest, Steve. Like, you look at that. I was born, I grew up with the Magpie with the castle in the background, and then UFC one, then this one. So it's not as if it's another. It's like we've had the same badge since the inception of the club. It's a badge. As long as it represents us, we'll be fine. It'll be interesting to see if they do bring it down and say, right, these are now the last three choices, and allow people to have their say on that. But even then, you're not going to get 100% people agreeing, so there'll still be people who will be pretending to be offended over something that's really, to me, it's just a bit minor.
Okay, Mitch, questions already coming in about it. James says, rhetorical question. Once lip service is concluded and the club decides on a simple, easy to mass produce badge, will it mean the cost of merchandise sold to fans will be reflected in the savings made? Is the club just money grabbing yet again and squeezing the fans for every penny? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Interesting that we get questions, like that coming in, because we can tend to give our opinion. We can't give the answers, but we can always give our opinion. What do you think, mate?
Well, certainly not bring the cost of merchandise down, because I don't think it's brought the cost of Juventus's merchandise down with their badge redesign. And therefore, that's a nonsense. I think there's loads of different ways this could have been announced, and a lot more cleverer ways it could have been done and phrased. Part of me still wishes that Mike Ashley held the rights to the badge, so it would be one last bloody 2 fingers up to him. There'd be bloody street parties if that was the case. If the club had been able to say, well, look, this is the last vestige of him gone from the club and bye-bye. But there are better ways they could have phrased about moving on to a new badge for a digital age, and not consigning the current badge to history, but rather using it in the right way going forward to remember good times at the club. I think there definitely could be better consultation. I had a little rant about the FAB and the trust a couple of weeks ago, and I think I stand by everything that I said then, and I think I've had everything I said then absolutely validated and justified. They cannot just be nodding dogs who go, yes, that's lovely, to everything that the club does and says. They should be there to challenge on occasion. I think we need to be smart, do it. And again, look at Juventus and what Juventus have done. And they don't just use a single badge. They have that simplified J, which has got the black and white stripes in it, is their sort of their main badge. But then on a lot of their other kit, and if you look at this season's third kit, for example, with the trefoil, they use the prancing zebra, which is, again, historically was part of their heritage. And so I think we could be looking at being clever and being able to be flexible in terms of which badges we use where and when. I think we were softened up a little bit for that in the current range of kits. When you see different badges appearing on different parts of the kit, it's a little nod to say, this may be changing, but we're not forget our heritage either. I do think it could have been managed a lot better. And I don't think enough consultation. If that leaked image that just has been allegedly come as a design that was shown to the FAB, that's horrendous, and that looks like it was done by an 11-year-old with AI. And we want nothing like that. We want something that's far more professional. We want something that's far more representative of the heritage of the club. But as Stu says, at the end of the day, it's a badge. What matters is who's in it. Yeah. What matters if you... I had a look at that half-hour video of Tonali at the weekend when I had a little bit of time away from the bar, and that matters. That matters a lot more to me than kits and badges and everything else. It's about what's fostering in the club and what's fostering in terms of the spirit and racking up trophies. And I don't think anybody will be asking about the badge if we're lifting trophies again in a new shirt with a new badge on. It's still Newcastle United. Yeah,
and that's my feelings as well. I do think the timing of it was a bit weird, especially with a big game coming up this weekend. I felt maybe that this is something that could have been addressed at the end of the season, considering that they're not looking at next season. They're bringing the badge in. They're talking about the season after.
There was absolutely no need to rattle the hornet's nest this week. In my opinion, a really stupid move in many ways. But they've done that repeatedly this year in certain sections of the club, that they're not smart, and they should be a lot smarter. And that's why I get accused by some people of having an agenda. I don't. I just want us to be doing things professionally and well in every single aspect of the club, and not rattling the hornet's nest or chucking a fag end into a powder keg. That is our social media. And the week before, possibly the biggest game of the season, it's not smart.
Yeah, I think one thing, and Keith, I think wants you to have a Jägermeister for Liam, who's 21 today. Happy birthday, Liam.
Get on the pump again, Jesus.
That's it, get on the pump. I think communication, Stu, was always the thing that we asked for prior to the takeover. Mike Ashley was terrible at communication. The club were terrible at communication, and prior to that, previous owners, again, I was part of the ill-fated fans liaison committee. The only reason that they set that up was to try and shut fans up, stop them complaining, and this is what we've done. You've got your communication now shut up. But at least Newcastle United now are using the technology. They're using the internet, they're using surveys, they're using the database. Look, we're not naive. We know why they use the database. We know why they want people's email addresses and communication, because it helps build the brand, and it helps drag people into the fan base, and it helps generate cash. But at least they communicate with the supporters. Season ticket holders, members will have all had the survey, filled the survey, and that's communication, Stu, and that's a positive, that Newcastle do want to communicate with supporters, and they do give us that option at least. They may well have already made the decision about what they're going to do, but at least they're communicating.
Yeah,
but we don't want this to be like over or hypercritical show, but I think it could be done more professionally. It still stinks of the amateurish people walking the corridor that were there with the predecessor, and for me, it's a lack of understanding. Which is a big worry. Are people scared to make mistakes, and by being scared to make mistakes, they make mistakes? But ultimately, how much do we open this up? Were the fans advisory board questioned with it? Did they have an input? Did the fans advisory board speak to other fans? There's all these questions that leave go unanswered, which then leaves them open to criticism. But personally, I just think, as I said at the start, Steve, I think the timing of it is curious, if anything. I think if you go back to when the new owners, when owners were the new owners, we were swept away and we expected things like this to happen. And, you think, right, it's not going to be next season anyway. It's going to be the season after. So it gives time for people to get used to it. And the example I keep using is, if you remember when the Angel of the North first got erected, everyone was criticizing of it. Now everyone's proud of it. It's just, you have to get used to it. And until a new badge is officially shown, how can we pass comment on it? But with the communication, for me, has always left a lot to be desired, and that can improve. But I think it's the people who are making these decisions, not the ones at the top. You could even call it the middle management, I suppose, in the structure. They seem to not have the fingers on the pulse, and then they'll just do it's like, is it Charlie Method from the Sunderland one? It's just like people like that working within our club. That's how some of the things seem to be getting passed out, with total disregard to the fan base. But it's not going to be the first, and it certainly won't be the last time that fans have felt ignored or neglected, because that's the way football's going now. So if there is a level of communication, sometimes it's better than no communication, but it can be improved on.
Yeah. Anything to add, Mitch?
No, I think like Stu, I'm very keen not to sound like I'm whinging for whinging's sake. There's things we can work here. Totally understand. Need to progress and move on. And moving into a new age and bringing a badge with it is part of that. There's only, 2 other clubs who haven't touched their badge in the last 20 years in the top flight. So, it's not an unusual thing. No. But it, as ever, and what frustrates me is, I'm going to say something now I used to say repeatedly under the Ashley era. It's not what is being done. It is the way it is managed. And when the way it is managed doesn't really gel, that's when you've got a problem on your hands.
Yeah, okay. I think we've exhausted that for now anyway. There'll be plenty more comments, I'm sure, this week about this and ongoing through the summer. Lots of people still want to make comments about it. David McLeod, I think we've covered this really, but is the new badge fans' choice or has choice already been made by the club? Yeah, and I genuinely think, they're putting it out there. I do think they haven't decided what it's going to be. They may have some ideas, but, let's face it. Let's face it. It's just a crest. And I think the lads have really nailed it when they've said it's what is in wearing those shirts that really matters the most. David McLeod, let's change tact with what he has to say. He says, question for everybody. I want Sunderland to make it to the Premiership. Does anybody else agree? Well, they're 2-1 up in the playoffs. Sheffield United look as if they're going to be at Wembley. Sunderland, of course, have got a tough game against Coventry at the Stadium like this week. I've made it clear I'm a fan of the derbies. I like to see Newcastle and Sunderland in the same division as long as Newcastle are well and truly above them. But Emmett says, I want the derby games back, but if they lose the playoffs, I wouldn't lose any sleep. Well, yeah, I think that's probably the mindset of most people. Do you want to see Sunderland back in the Premier League, Stu, or are you not particularly fussed? Would you rather just see them down there for the rest of the time?
Either. If they were back, then the derby games are great. The build up, it's a full week, isn't it? And the chasm between those in the Championship and those in the, I know you've covered it in Amigos on Friday, but the gap now is just getting ridiculous to the point. And if you look at the league table, the team that's third bottom to the team that's fourth bottom, there's a 15-point gap, right? So that means whoever comes up have to win 5 more games than those teams already have just to get parity. But then that's with teams like West Ham, Man United and Tottenham, who surely can't have the same season, so the gap's going to get too big. They don't have the funds to spend. So it could be good just to have them in for laughing sake, they could then go and get derbies record off the least amount of points. And there was always a bit of jeopardy with the derby games, they could go either way, but I think there's a huge chasm between us and Sunderland now where they wouldn't like it at all. So for that purpose, I don't mind them. As you said, Steve, I didn't care. I worked in Sunderland many years ago, and I didn't care if they finished second as long as we won the league. But as it happened, we finished second and they got relegated. So if the same was to happen next season, then so be it. But they're not in the same stratosphere as we are. They're miles and miles and miles behind. So if they were to come up, it would be a huge shock for them. And if they stay down, then there's another season without them being in the top flight. You never know. Maybe Mike Ashley will take them over.
Mitch?
Genuinely, the only time I ever really properly think about Sunderland is when we've got to play them. I'm not really bothered about whether they come up or stay where they are or whatever they do. The only time I've ever thought more about Sunderland than I normally would be when we lived in County Durham and my next door neighbour happened to be Paul Collingwood, who was as red and white as they come. But, save from that, let them get on and do their thing. They're a fascinating case study in terms of, I guess, functioning within your means, a la Mike Ashley, and we know what that brings. We know what that brings when it comes to then getting to the top flight. So good luck to them if they do. But they've still got another game to play yet. They're acting, I believe that, certainly from what I've seen on social media, they're acting like they're already at Wembley. And then they've got to play a team that they've 9 points behind in the division. Technically, if they play them in the final, so that's already another gap. It shows a gap in quality in the Championship. The Championship's been about 3 teams this season, and then everybody else has been in also run. It wasn't at one stage about 3 weeks ago. Every team in that division could technically be involved in something to do with promotion or relegation. At one stage, it's becoming a ridiculous division to get out of. Mm-hmm. And anybody getting out of that division, be that by automatic promotion or via the playoff, need their hands shook. It's a horrible division to be in. It's like quicksand, and the more you struggle, the further down you get sucked, and that's not always a good thing. See, took myself out of that one.
You did.
So fair play to them. Good luck to them, but. When it comes to derby days, I never like them. They're not good for me blood pressure. But from my point of view, to have another northern team in the division without American influence wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah. Geordie Tuberlife says, personally, I don't mind if Sunderland come up. I've always enjoyed derby days, and let's face it, they will struggle in the Premiership. JD88 on Twitter says, absolutely not for me. Keep the dark side down in the Championship. Lots of people still going on about the badge. I'll come to that in a second. Not a fan of the Sunderland versus Newcastle game, says Dean. The rivalry seems to be hatred now, and it's not for me, sadly. I think it's calmed down in more recent seasons, but yeah, I get where you're coming from, Dean, in past years. Rituals before the match. We'll have to do a program on this. Anthony says, bacon, eggs and Heineken on the go, then Metro to the tune from North Shields at 10. Come on. Good stuff. Good stuff, mate. And Gary says, morning, Steve, Stu and Mitch. I see the shares have rocketed in Jägermeister this weekend. You're not kidding.
Started on Friday drinking at 5 o'clock with Mitch.
It's good job we didn't have an Amigos on Friday.
And in the 2 days, Friday and Saturday, I've drank a total for 21 hours in those 2 days. Wow. The reason we're over, well, I'm over here, Mitch lives here. The reason I've come over, it's our good friend Hallie's birthday. It was her 40th yesterday. When I had a long day, I think it was 12 hours or so at the crease. Boycotting it would have been 12 hours yesterday. And as you can see, we've started again today. And I've got to be up tomorrow morning to get to the airport and then fly back to Barry and go straight to work. So I'll be a bit tired tomorrow.
Good stuff. Thanks everybody supporting the Age UK campaign. We've got 3 donations, 30 quid in, which is great. We've set the target at 50 quid. 10 donations is what we're looking for, just so we can give something to Age UK this week, because we didn't have time to do a live auction on the Amigos. The badge and the crest, it keeps on going. Here we go again. Newcastle was part of Northumberland until 1974. I'd love to see a link to 84 years of their heritage on the badge, or even a third kit inspired by the Northumberland flag. I think on the new strip they've used Northumberland tartan. Don't quote us on that, but that was the rumor on the new strip. I mean, I'm sure once it comes out that'll be confirmed. But Dean just says, what is a club in any case? Always comes down to Sir Bobby's words. Very true. NUFC Pro says, I'm in favour of a nice new modern badge. The thing that riles me is why before a game? Why not at the end of the season? It is frustrating. Yeah, we made that point a little bit earlier on. And back to Sunderland, Derek says they'll lose Bellingham, Patterson and Rigg in the summer. They don't worry me one bit. And Simon says that the Blades will beat Sunderland on penalties. It's written in the tea leaves. And the crowds when the unwashed bus left for Coventry was that big that Edna from Clevedon, the local lollipop lady, was drafted in to control the situation on her own. Yeah, it was. It was cringeworthy, wasn't it? It really.
Whoever was in charge of producing that video, and they give them a drone, and they decided, let's do a long shot and just make it look even worse than it is. I mean, dear Lord.
I thought it was AI initially, didn't I? I thought it was going to be a joke.
Dear me, there was a few videos done afterwards by Sunderland supporters saying, "Oh, this is it," and there was only a certain few are now invited. But anyway, not our problem. Dean, thank you for your donation.
It just looked like a 6-year-old had raided his mom's bake-off file.
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did. Just want to touch on this, lads. Jacob Murphy, congratulations to him. April's PFA Premier League Fans Player of the Month. If you haven't had a chance to see it as well, BBC Sounds and Match, BBC Football Focus, it's a programme I fast forward through now, I've got to be perfectly honest, just in case there's anything of Newcastle United quality on there. I just can't stand that format now. But yeah, this is a great accolade for somebody who's had a wonderful season. And, he's very focused. It was a little bit of an insight into where he came from. I mean, you forget how many clubs he's actually played for. You forget that he's 30. He almost feels like he's just broken through. You forget he's a twin, and that his twin brother is doing rather well at Portsmouth this year. But every time you hear him speak, he's such a lovely lad. Newcastle through and through as well, and still has burning ambition to do well for Newcastle. And Stu, it's great to have somebody like Murphy, who again has had his critics, and he's proved those critics wrong.
He's living the dream, isn't he? It's for me, he's an epitome of what hard work can get you. He's been a squad member. He's been put out on loan, and then if we go back to when the takeover happened, he was on on the list, if you had to pick 5 players to leave that squad, I think most people would have him as one of the 5. Yet he's knuckled down and he's become, I wouldn't say integral, but he's played a major part in our success this season. And I think I said it last week, it's strange if Jacob Murphy plays well, Newcastle play well, because the chances he's creating. And I still don't think he'd be starting regularly next season for us, but he's done what's been asked of him and more. And you hear anyhow talk. I mean, I know he bigs up all these players, but he is somebody that you can rely on. And I think at home he plays a lot better, not because he's the backing of the crowd, but I think away as a team in the formation, I think what he finds is he has to come back and defend more, and that takes away his attacking quality of getting the balls in. You know, you can't cover that much ground constantly, and that's why if you look at Aston Villa game, if you look at Brighton game, he wasn't anywhere near his best. And for him to stay in that team, he has to be at his very, very best. So the fact he got voted Player of the Month, I was surprised, because in that month he had, to me, a couple of subpar games. But fair play to him. You know, it's any accolade like that, you know, you'll get yourself a nice little trophy, you can stick it on his mantelpiece, and he can look back at this season as being the best of his career. But what we can't do is get emotionally attached to him. He's had a Miggy season, if you want to put it that way, but for a more sustained period. But Player of the Month, congratulations to Jacob Murphy, and I hope he has a fantastic finish to May.
Yeah, it is ironic. The rumour suggests Murphy could get dropped for this game, which is what Stu's alluding to, I guess. You know, that he hasn't had, the best over the last couple of weeks. Not dropped, rotated, says Craig, which is, it's a good way of putting it. That's the way we should be thinking now. We need that kind of mentality going into next season. And Emmett says there was calls for Murphy to get in the England squad. Again, that was tackled on Football Focus on this interview. Listening to people's opinions, it's their opinions, but the only opinion that counts with England is Tuchel's, Mitch.
Absolutely. And if Tuchel feels that the work he's put in is rewarding of a call-up, he'll do it. He's proved that with Dan Burn.
Yeah.
You know, he will obviously make calls that some people might not agree with. But at the same time, Murphy deserves the accolades. He's the epitome of hard work producing rewards. And you know, a couple of years ago when we had the pleasure of his company in Riyadh for a little bit, and you could see, you know, like Will Asula, he's the kind of human dopamine type character that Eddie Howe seems to like to sprinkle into the dressing room here and there.
He's infectious, isn't he?
He is, yeah, absolutely infectious. You know, you speak to Lascelles about him, and Lascelles was like, yeah, you want to cuddle him 1 minute and smash him the next, you know. Yeah, like, okay. You see he's that sort of character. But dressing rooms need that blend, and if you've got somebody who is perceived as hardworking and reliable by the manager, and he sets examples, and it's quite clear that other players, even quality players, pick up on examples from other players in the dressing room. Again, going back to Tonali, another interview with him last week where he said, "Who's the most underrated player you played with?" And he's, without thinking, says Sean Longstaff. Now, where's that relationship come from? And I suspect that's because that's somebody who's in the background, in the midfield room, not getting a game, but he's working his arse off in training and doing all sorts of training that the manager likes. And so somebody, even with the talent of Tonali, will look at somebody like that and say, there's things to be admired there. And I think that's what Jacob Murphy brings to the table. It's not always the things we see on match day. It's about what happens around the squad. And so I'm delighted for him because he always has. And certainly in the limited interactions we had with him, what a smashing lad he is.
Yeah, Murphy's also the dressing room DJ too, apparently, which okay, let's look ahead to the game. As I say, it's only 45 minutes show. We've only got about 15 minutes left. I'll just chuck the adverts in at the end, and the lads can get back to what's important, which is Jägermeister and watching the match. Newcastle will obviously take on Chelsea at midday today. Manchester City's failure to win at the bottom club Southampton on Saturday opens the door for the winners of this match to go third behind Arsenal. We go in search of our 6th successive home league victory, which is quite an incredible run, and that goes back to February when we lost 2-1 to Fulham. We've won 11 times at St James's Park in the Premier League this season. That matches our 23-24 total. We last managed 12 and 22-23, but before that you've got to go back to 2002-2003 campaign when we got 15. Just incidentally, we will have an interview with Paul Ferris, our former physio, on the podcast next week or the week after, I think, and he will be at Waterstones if you're in town today at 11 o'clock, signing copies of his new book about his time at Newcastle called Once Upon a Tune. Team news: Lewis Hall and Matt Targett remain unavailable. Jamal Lascelles is now back in full training. The issues that affected Fabian Schär and Kieran Trippier at Brighton aren't expected to affect their availability for Sunday. Joe Linton has returned to the UK and may yet play some part in the remaining 3 games of the season after spending a little bit of time in Brazil and having an injection in his knee. I think he'll play today, just my opinion. Not long to find out the team, so I'll be right or wrong. Coach Jason Tindall returns after 1 game touchline ban, so he'll be standing up alongside Eddie Howe. And this is another chance for you to donate to the food bank. They will be on Strawberry Place, and don't forget Jamie Rubin doubles any cash donations. Referee today is John Brooks. It's his 4th game of the season. Been a lucky referee for Newcastle United this season. He took charge of the 1-0 victory over Arsenal. He also took charge of the 2-0 Carabao Cup success at Arsenal and the Carabao Cup final at Wembley. VAR is Darren England, and if you are wanting to watch it on the TV today, TNT is where you need to go to. A couple of places in town as well where you can go and watch it on the screen if you're unlucky enough not to have a ticket. The Dog and Parrot on Clayton Street West, Freight in the Big Market, and Pumphrey's in the Big Market will all be streaming the game. And thank you again to, just before I get to the lads, to Jerry for donating $9.99 to our cause for Age UK North Tyneside. He just says, wishing the professionals the very best. Have been lifted by you 3 over the past few years. A great job. Yes, hoping for the right result today. Shout out to the 12th man today. How are the lads? Jerry, thank you for that donation. Yes, huge game. And it is a cup final in its own, Stu.
It is, and that's a good thing, because it seems to me that when the players put this laser focus on a certain game, they know what to do, they know what's expected of them, and most importantly, they can control their emotions. Strangely, if you remember a few months back, we had a Chelsea fan, Simon, on the show for a bit. You remember we had him on, Simon?
Yes, yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously I'm in constant contact with him, and he's up there, he's at Newcastle today. So I asked him what he thought of the game, and this was yesterday. He says, tomorrow I see you overpower us in midfield in the first 20 minutes as we only play one way. I think if you can get a 2-goal lead by half-time, the game is done. But despite a noon kickoff, I know you boys will give a great atmosphere. Just remember, I have to get up at 5:30 to get there. So he's going there in hope rather than expectation. And if you look at the league table, you'd think that we all level on points and goals and everything else. But for me, we're better than them. And what we have is unity. And the players will fight for each other, where I think if things go wrong for Chelsea, they can't down tools. And it's up to us as supporters who are in the ground, it's up to the players to make sure that's exactly what happens. We want to make it as uncomfortable for them as possible. Boo every pass they make, cheer every tackle that we make, and get them to whether they just want that game over as quickly as possible. And I'm super confident that we'll win today. I really am. And I think win today, we're nearly there. If you recall a few shows back, I said we need to get to 69 points, win today, and then we just need to get 3 from the next 2. And that's on the condition everyone else keeps winning. It's in our hands. I don't care if we push for 2nd, if we finish 3rd or finish 4th or even 5th. As long as we get to the Champions League, it's been a magnificent season. And I think the importance of today is not lost on the players either. And it's a time for our blue chip players to stand up and be counted. And that's why I think Anthony Gordon's going to be playing today.
Yeah, there are a lot of people asking in the chat, do you think Gordon will start? So you do, Stu?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's starting. And for me, I know me and Mitch slurred this yesterday when we were talking to each other, or slurring each other as it was at one stage. I would play him on the right wing. That's why he played for Everton, and it should be about Newcastle United, about the team, not about Anthony Gordon. Where we don't want to scenario as left wing or I'm not playing, and and it can come across that way. You want to get back in the team, you shouldn't have got yourself sent off. You want to get back in the team, you're going to play on the right wing, and you're going to do a job for this team for the next few games. Next season is going to be different. You'll get your place back then because you'll have a pre-season, etc., etc. But I would play him on the right wing. I don't think Harvey Barnes deserves to be rotated, rested, dropped, whichever way you want to phrase it. But he's a better impact sub than the other two. If you're looking at Murphy, Gordon and Barnes is a better impact sub. It's just that, will he take it like, well, look how well I've done, and then as soon as he's fully fit now, I'm not in the team. So that's the bit Eddie Howe and the coaching staff have to manage psychologically. But for me, Anthony Gordon starts. But yeah, there's a way you could play all three of them. You could play a 4-2-3-1 and have Murphy on the right, Barnes on the left, and Gordon behind Isaac. Because he's played that role before as well for England, and he's a false 9. But you can have him as a number 10 running at the defence, where they can start swapping positions and things like that. So I know Eddie Howe won't do that 4-2-3-1, but that's what I would do. But for me, Gordon is an absolute certainty to start today.
What are you feeling, Mitch? Do you think Joe Linton might feature today?
That's what we're hearing, is that he's potentially back because he may be fit enough to play some part. My feeling is those were pretty much get our head around the fact he was out for the season. It wouldn't be unlike him to suddenly reappear and say, right, I'll have a bit of this for the next couple of games. I personally don't think he will, though. I do think, and obviously I speak to quite a few Chelsea fans out here. Just spoke to Rob in the car on the way down before I came here. And they're all bothered about their own team selection and the selections that Maresca makes. And the concern seems to be on a number of fronts. Both their keepers have got a mistake in them and not consistent. It looks like potentially Caicedo is going to be playing right back and then has to tuck into midfield to bolster the midfield when they don't have possession. But that then, to me, gives opportunity in that left wing stroke right back position for us. He makes some baffling team selections. He had 2 fullbacks playing in centre midfield in the European game through the week. And then the other week he had no fullbacks on the pitch and 4 on the bench. And I think that this lack of consistency in terms of team selection seems to have been what's hamstrung Chelsea this season. And that seems to be the worry coming from their side of things to me, is that there's no consistency in selection. So how the hell can they plan to play us at St James's Park when they don't know what they're doing themselves? So I think there's opportunities there for absolutely. It's annoying that Jackson and Palmer seem to be coming into just a little run of form now. But dear me, if we cannot handle them two, it's a sad day on a football pitch.
Caicedo is their main man. Win that battle, we win the game. It will be won or lost in midfield. I think there's no doubt about that, lads.
Yeah, but if he's starting right fullback and then stepping up into midfield rather than starting in midfield, he's going to find himself caught between 2 stools on more than one occasion. That's an opportunity for us.
And if you have Gordon start and run at him, there's always prone for a yellow card, isn't he? And then once you get given a yellow card, it takes out a lot of his...
he can't be as aggressive.
Exactly. It takes out a lot of his game.
Simon says, good morning, gents. Massive match today. Do you think there's a chance that Eddie Howe changes his formation for this match? We've talked about players coming in and maybe players being rotated. But do you think a change in formation could be seen today?
No, I think the next time you'll change formation is next week. And that's when you'll play 3 or stroke 5 at the back away at Arsenal. But this is our ground. This is our home. This is our pitch. This is us, you know what I mean? And we'll go with the tried and tested 4-3-3. People know the rules, and I think we can blow them away in the first half today.
We've got to be on the front foot doing what we do best and worry about us and be aggressive.
It's a game for Bruno. It's a game for Tonali to stand up and be counted. And when it comes, they do turn up.
John says, Joe Linton was out with his family yesterday while my son works. He was wearing a knee brace. There we go. It's another one chucked into the mix. As I say, we'll know very, very soon what that starting lineup is. Just over an hour, and the team will be announced. Where do we stand in Europe? Match of the day gave us another rundown. Conference League, Newcastle are the EFL Cup winners. So the Conference League spot is held by Newcastle for winning the League Cup. But if Eddie Howe's team finished top 6, Conference League place goes to the highest placed team that hasn't reached Europe, which could be 8th place if Manchester City win the FA Cup. If Chelsea finish outside the top 6 and win the Conference League, there'll be 3 Europa League places and no Conference League slot. It's always handy keeping an eye on this because it does change, of course.
And if the wind blows from the east.
Yeah, exactly. But we know... We know Liverpool and Arsenal are going to be there. It is now, it's a shootout now between Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea, Villa, and Nottingham Forest. And today is the latest round of those games. Newcastle have to beat Chelsea. Beat Chelsea gives themselves, a wonderful chance. We go a point above Man City into 3rd place if we can do it. More importantly, we'll go 3 points clear of Chelsea, but with a better goal difference. And Aston Villa, of course, managing to get a win against Bournemouth. Great win, that. No doubt about it. A 1-0 win at Bournemouth, who are chasing European football themselves. Still confident, is my last question, Stu, that we're going to get a Champions League place?
Absolutely. And I think it was about a month ago when we were talking about there, and I said, watch out for Villa. The bookies don't fancy them, but I think they're capable of, they're proving it, of winning every game.
Yeah.
But the maximum points they can get to is 69, and that's why I'd say 2 more wins for us, and we've got a far superior goal difference. And if we do get to see, then it'll be very difficult for them to get back above us. So I'm supremely confident, but not overconfident. Not like to the arrogant bit, but I expect us to get Champions League. And today, when we win today, that won't confirm it, but it's a huge step towards getting it.
3-1 from you then, is it, Stu?
Is it what, sorry?
3-1 prediction from you?
It's 3-1, but I've also got 4-1 and 4-2. Because the reason 4-2, in which I never normally do, is because the sun's shining back home, isn't it? Yeah. And it reminds us of the time when Andy Cole scored a couple of 1 with his left foot from outside the box near the start of the season, remember? Yeah. And the sun was shining that day. So hopefully history repeats itself and he's whacking them in instead of Andy Cole.
Okay, confident of Champions League, Mitch?
Until it's not in our hands anymore, of course I am. It's in our hands. And that's all you can ask for at this stage of the season is to be, we've got 3 things. We've got the points on the board, we've got a great goal difference, and we still control the narrative.
Yeah, we're not relying
They're
on
all the things that you would want.
Yeah.
And so if you can't be confident for that, we'll never learn to be winners.
100%.
The thing is, when we win today, that puts us 1 point behind Arsenal and go there next week. Why are Arsenal not in the conversation or Man City not in the conversation? Because we're not used to it.
Can you imagine a Liverpool, Man U or an Arsenal podcast like this with them sitting going, oh my God, we might lose out to Villa because the wind might blow from the wrong way and the leaves might fall and we're all looking for the disaster. Can you imagine an equivalent podcast from those teams? Mm-hmm. We all go, they're bloody arrogant, them. They're not necessarily arrogant. They just know. They know when you control the narrative, when you've got the points on the board and you've got the positive goal difference, it's all still in your hands. Why? And again, statistically over the season, we've proved that when we raise our game for games like this, it takes further into our hands. And that's when you become winners.
Great stuff. Great place to end it. I hope you enjoyed it. Back tomorrow, 7 o'clock, Fans Forum. Enjoy the game, lads, and have a Jägermeister for me. Take care.
You guys do it.
Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sport Social Podcast Network. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to support the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, and click share to your social media. You could also take out a monthly membership or an annual membership at nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. For the lifetime membership, you can pay £25 and get a pen, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a badge and a keyring and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Some events coming up: 27th of June 2025, the end of season party. Beresford, Howie and Watson will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre with Joe Allen in aid of North Tyneside Age UK. You can get your tickets for that one from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk or from Woucher. No Covers takes place at the Cluny. That's on the 29th of June, midday till 3:45, and tickets are £10 from theclooney.com or newcastlelegends.com. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, takes place on the 9th of August, 10 till 4 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Come and meet some of the cast and crew in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Tickets from nufcmatters.co.uk. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place on Friday the 23rd of January 2026 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. You can get tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And Bad Manners are back in the Northeast at the O2 City Hall, Friday the 30th of January 2026. Tickets from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainer's book, signed by Les Ferdinand, available from nufcmatters.co.uk.